The relationship between India and Canada has been shaken to its core. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in a shocking move, has pointed fingers at India. He accuses India of being involved in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a designated terrorist by India. Nijjar, a Khalistani separatist, was found dead in Canada. Trudeau's allegations have sparked outrage in India, with many seeing it as a blatant attack on India's sovereignty. This is not just about one murder. This is about respect, trust, and the very foundation of a bilateral relationship. India has always maintained a policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries. Trudeau's accusations fly in the face of this principle, casting a dark shadow on years of diplomatic efforts. The timing of these allegations is particularly suspect. They come at a time when India is taking center stage on the global platform. Could this be an attempt to tarnish India's image and derail its growing influence? The Indian government has vehemently denied these allegations, calling them absurd and motivated. India has a long and proud history of upholding the rule of law. To suggest that India would engage in extrajudicial killings on foreign soil is not only preposterous, but deeply insulting. Trudeau's claims, lacking any credible evidence, reek of political opportunism. This is a dangerous game that Trudeau is playing, one that could have far-reaching consequences. India has responded to Trudeau's accusations with a resounding rejection. The Indian government has categorically denied any involvement in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. These allegations, devoid of any concrete evidence, are seen as nothing more than a politically motivated attack on India's integrity. India has always been a strong advocate for the rule of law and due process. To insinuate that India would resort to such actions is not only baseless, but also deeply offensive. India's track record speaks for itself. We have always cooperated with international investigations and brought perpetrators of crimes to justice. The timing of these allegations raises serious questions about their true intent. Why now, when India is on the cusp of global leadership? Could this be a desperate attempt to clip India's wings and undermine its growing stature on the world stage? India has urged Canada to refrain from making such reckless statements without presenting credible evidence. The onus is on Canada to substantiate its claims with concrete proof, not just empty rhetoric. The ball is in Canada's court. The world is watching. India will not be bullied or intimidated by baseless accusations. We will continue to stand tall and defend our sovereignty. The truth will prevail. At the heart of this diplomatic firestorm lies the spectre of Khalistan, a separatist movement seeking an independent Sikh homeland from India. This movement has found fertile ground among certain sections of the Sikh diaspora in Canada. The Khalistan issue has been a thorn in India-Canada relations for decades. India will not tolerate any attempts to dismember its territory. Pro-Khalistan activities in Canada have been a source of constant friction. Canada's stance on freedom of expression is seen by India as tacit support. This perceived leniency has created a trust deficit between the two nations. The murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar has brought tensions to a boil. This difference in perception lies at the heart of the current impasse. The timing of Trudeau's accusations against India has raised eyebrows in New Delhi, with many questioning whether domestic political considerations are at play. The Sikh community, a significant voting bloc in Canada, has historically been courted by Canadian political parties. Could Trudeau be pandering to this vote bank by taking a tough stance against India? The Liberal Party, led by Trudeau, has traditionally enjoyed strong support among the Sikh diaspora. However, recent years have seen a surge in support for the new Democratic Party within the community. This shift in allegiance has put pressure on Trudeau to consolidate his support base. By taking a confrontational approach towards India on the issue of Khalistan, Trudeau may be attempting to project himself as a strong advocate for the Sikh community's concerns. This strategy, however, risks alienating India, a key global player and a potential economic partner. India has expressed its displeasure over Canada's perceived appeasement of pro-Khalistan elements. The Indian government has argued that such actions embolden extremist groups and undermine India's sovereignty. This diplomatic row could have serious consequences for Canada's economic and strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific region. While domestic political calculations may be a factor in Canada's stance, it is crucial for the Canadian government to strike a balance between its domestic compulsions and its international obligations. Ignoring India's concerns and pandering to extremist elements will only harm Canada's long-term interests. Canada's large and vocal Sikh diaspora, while largely law-abiding, harbours within it a small but vocal minority that continues to espouse separatist sentiments. This fringe element, often operating under the banner of Khalistan, has been accused of glorifying terrorism and inciting hatred against India. India has long urged Canada to take concrete action against these extremist elements, arguing that their activities pose a threat to India's national security. However, Canada's response has been seen as lukewarm at best, with the Canadian government often hiding behind the shield of freedom of speech. The proliferation of pro-Khalistan propaganda on social media platforms, often originating from Canada, has further exacerbated tensions. These online platforms have become echo chambers for hate speech and misinformation, fueling separatist sentiments and radicalizing vulnerable youth. Canada's reluctance to address India's concerns about these extremist elements has created a perception that Canada is turning a blind eye to their activities. This perceived inaction has eroded trust between the two nations, making it challenging to address the issue through dialogue and cooperation. Canada has a responsibility to ensure that its territory is not used as a safe haven for individuals and groups engaged in activities that threaten the security of other nations. A failure to do so will only embolden these extremist elements and further damage Canada's relationship with India. The diplomatic fallout from Trudeau's accusations has been swift and severe. India has responded with fury, recalling its High Commissioner from Canada and expelling a senior Canadian diplomat in retaliation. Trade talks have been put on hold, and travel advisories have been issued, signaling a deep freeze in bilateral relations. This diplomatic row is not just a war of words, it has real-world consequences. The suspension of trade talks will hurt businesses on both sides and jeopardize billions of dollars in potential investments. The travel advisories will disrupt people-to-people ties, impacting students, tourists, and families with loved ones in both countries. Beyond the immediate economic and social impact, the damage to the long-term relationship between India and Canada is immeasurable. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. The scars of this diplomatic spat will likely linger for years to come, casting a shadow over future cooperation. The international community has expressed concern over the escalating tensions, urging both sides to exercise restraint and engage in dialogue. However, the path to reconciliation appears fraught with obstacles, given the deep mistrust and the sensitive nature of the issues at stake. The diplomatic fallout from this row serves as a stark reminder of the importance of diplomacy, respect, and mutual understanding in international relations. A failure to adhere to these principles can have far-reaching consequences, jeopardizing not just bilateral ties, but also regional stability and global cooperation. The current diplomatic impasse between India and Canada is a lose-lose situation for both nations. The longer this standoff continues, the greater the damage to bilateral ties. The only way forward is through dialogue based on mutual respect. Both sides must tone down rhetoric and avoid inflammatory statements. A cooling-off period with back-channel diplomacy is essential. India and Canada need frank discussions, addressing each other's concerns. India must provide credible evidence regarding the Nijar case. Canada needs to address India's concerns about pro-Khalistan extremism.